Welcome to the New Left. Thank you so much to our newest patron, Brian Kelly. There is an election fraud crisis happening in America that the media is refusing to report on. According to the Electoral Integrity Project out of Harvard, the United States now has the most corrupt elections in the entire Western world, and the ramifications of that are honestly terrifying. Exit polling is one of the best tools that we have for combating election fraud. And if an exit poll is off by more than 2% from the actual results, then that election is fraudulent, according to our own government. In 2016, we have 28 states that did exit polls in their elections. And out of those 28 states, 25 of them had exit polls over 2% in the primaries, and 19 of them had exit polls over 2% in the general election. What that means is that 89% of our primary elections and 68% of our general elections were all complete and utter frauds. It was all rigged. Let that sink in. The tools that we use to catch election fraud all over the world are telling us that almost all of our elections are mind-blowingly corrupt. Now, if you look at our system, you can see why this is happening. Because in America, we allow politicians to take bribes, and we vote for corporations that masquerade as political parties, and these corporations pass laws to take away our right to vote. Drug laws alone have taken away voting rights from over 6.1 million Americans, and forced voter registration has gotten rid of another 50 million voters. The Supreme Court has struck down the Voting Rights Act, and now states are allowed to purge any voters they want with no repercussions. And because of this, in the state of Kentucky, 26% of black people no longer have a legal right to vote. The corporate politicians that run this country are terrified of losing their grip on power, and to make sure that that never happens, they rigged the voting machines. The voting machines that run the elections in this country were all created by actual criminals who were all convicted on corruption charges. And these voting machines now are almost exclusively controlled by 3 private companies that do not allow us to audit the code that runs our election. And this code is so insecure that a 11-year-old kid was able to hack these machines in under 10 minutes. Watch for yourself how easy it is to rig an election in the United States.
I'm very concerned for our upcoming election because this voting machine is used in 18 different states, and it's extremely easy to get admin access on this machine. So let me show you how quick it is. It's about a little under 2 minutes. All they have to do, this bad actor, would be to open up this machine by pressing this button right here. When it's off, removing the card reader, removing this, you don't need any tools to do this. Unplugging this, again, you don't need any tools to do this. Turning it on, all you have to do is pick this lock here with a ballpoint pen. Open this up, press the red button, and we're gonna let it boot up here, and then I'll show you the admin access. So it's loading what they call a secure voting terminal right now. And here we're going to see a couple of error messages, and all you have to do to bypass those error messages is just click cancel and OK. And now I have full admin access, under 2 minutes.
So all you need is a ballpoint pen, and anyone can rig an election in America in just 90 seconds. But it gets even worse than that, because these insecure machines have so many security holes that politicians are actually hiring programmers to exploit these vulnerabilities and make the machines even easier to hack. Watch this courtroom testimony.
Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections?
Yes.
How do you know that to be the case?
Because in October of 2000, I wrote a prototype for President Congressman Tom Feeney at the company I worked for in Oviedo, Florida, that did just that.
And when you say did just that, it would rig an election?
It would flip the vote 51-49 to whoever you wanted it to go to and whichever race you wanted to win.
And would that program that you designed be something that elections officials that might be on county boards of elections could detect?
They'd never see it.
He asked you to design a code to rig an election
Yes.
while he was Speaker of the Florida House.
Yes.
This was during or previous to the 2000 election?
Yes. October into September.
And did he ever express why he wanted a code to rig an election?
She said, "You don't understand. We need to hide the fraud in the source code.
Hide the fraud, not reveal the fraud.
Not reveal the fraud because it's needed to control the vote in South Florida," was what she said.
That's what she said.
And it gets even worse than that. Because you don't need to write a code in order to rig one of these elections, because there's already a program hidden on each of these machines that is specifically designed to help you rig elections, and it's called Fraction Magic. A woman named Bev Harris and her team discovered this backdoor in these machines that secretly switches votes to decimals so that some votes are worth more than others. And using this tool, you can change the results of any election in this country.
Benny Smith found that there was fractional counting in our vote counting software. This was for Diebold, which is a global election management systems, GEMS database. He didn't know what it was doing there. You shouldn't need fractions for one person, one vote. When you have banking software, yeah, you need cents on a dollar, not for voting. So he exploited it by writing a little program that he dubbed, and Bev dubbed, Fraction Magic, and he assigned percentages to races that he wanted to have the outcome be predetermined. And then he loaded it into the database, and it was there invisibly, and it changed the results.
I found something that it reeked when I first found it. But then the intrigue made me say, well, why is it there? Votes being counted as money. 16,034 votes and 0.31.
Oh, wait a minute.
You can divide up to.
So the master computer can divide whole votes up into fractions, and we'll see what that can do to an election. Right now, the GEMS program is installed and counting votes in 25 states and 616 jurisdictions. But fractional counting began to migrate from the GEMS program into other vendors. Voting systems which count votes as fractions may count as many as 99% of all American votes in 2016.
You're not reprogramming these counties.
No, I'm
You're
complementing them.
You're using what's already there.
Yes.
So this is basically one size fits all. You can be one person and you can be entering different places, different states, gain total control.
Yes.
There is an election in this country where you can actually see fraction magic at work, and that is Tim Canova's race against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was the DNC chair who rigged the primaries against Bernie Sanders, and Tim Canova ran against her in 2016. Tim lost his race, but the numbers in the race weren't adding up, so he filed a lawsuit to challenge the election results. And a judge agreed with Tim that it looked like election fraud in the race. But before Tim could prove his case, the election supervisor named Brenda Snipes committed a crime and illegally destroyed the ballots, so there was no more evidence of election fraud, and she was never punished for it. There is a wonderful video by a guy named Matt Orfala to catch you up on this whole situation.
A bombshell. Booze for Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Caught red-handed sabotaging a grassroots campaign.
She helped rig a primary against Bernie Sanders.
Cheating Americans on behalf of who?
She's been taking millions of dollars from the biggest corporations.
Big pharma, payday lenders, Wall Street banks, fossil fuel industry, even private prison companies. We need to get away from money in politics. It's the only way the system's going to change.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz as a challenger.
Law professor Tim Canova was endorsed by Bernie Sanders.
We're for Medicare Medicare for all. She's against Medicare for all.
We are for ending this drug war.
She opposed medical marijuana.
We want a ban on fracking.
She pushed for offshore drilling.
We stand for election integrity.
She rigged the democratic process.
If she's doing that to Bernie, just imagine what she's trying to do to you.
She won the primary and kept her seat in Congress.
But we had our doubts about the final numbers.
Tim filed a lawsuit to inspect the ballots, but after he filed the lawsuit, the paper ballots were destroyed.
Why would somebody be violating the law to destroy ballots?
This is a big fucking deal.
A judge making the stunning decision that the election chief unlawfully destroyed ballots in the Tim Canova, Debbie Wasserman Schultz Democratic primary.
She's rigging the presidential election, now her own election.
And nobody got in trouble. Nobody goes to jail.
I reached out to all of the Democratic Party officials in the state to join us in calling for an investigation, and none responded. And the silence was just deafening. It was really the last straw for me with the Democratic Party.
So Tim Canova decides to run again in 2018, except this time as an independent. And there is a huge amount of energy behind this race. And the night before the election, Tim and Debbie are polling neck and neck at 34% each. It is a dead heat. And the next day, the election happens and Debbie Wasserman Schultz wins by a landslide. And Tim Canova somehow only manages to get 5% of the vote, despite the fact that he was polling at 34%. It didn't make any sense. But then, videos of election fraud start to appear on the internet.
I know it's dark and it's hard to see. I think like two ladies just walked up there with the provisional ballots, walking back into the precinct, and a bag of, like, you know, the paper ballots. And I said to them, I go, what, you just can carry those around? And they said, no, the truck left them. But the truck's right here, so I'm not real sure what the hell's going on here. But I don't think it's right. The ballots are right there, like right in the middle screen, in blue bags on the ground. This is like news. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. They seriously put this stuff in people's car and then let them bring it to the truck? Like, really? Look, this lady is bringing ballots out of her car. Like, bringing ballots out of her car from apparently this building. I don't know. I'm not real sure what's going on here. Unless these are people coming from other precincts. Sir, officer, are these people coming from other precincts? Is that what's happening? So they let them transport them with one person in the car from other precincts? Apparently so, huh? That doesn't seem right, does it? I know. But you know it doesn't. So apparently Broward County allows people to drive from other precincts by themselves. There's people with just one person in the car here. And they let them just drive over with the ballots.
So they start to look a little closer at the numbers, and they realize that Tim Canova didn't just get 5% of the vote. He got 5% in every single district and every single demographic group. This is mathematically and statistically impossible and would be the equivalent of winning the lottery every single day for an entire year. It is blatant election fraud, and it looks exactly like fraction magic. This is what fraction magic was designed to do. So Tim Canova challenges the results of this election in court as well. And the same election supervisor that illegally destroyed the ballots in 2016 does the same damn thing again in this election. She destroys the ballots, the judge has to throw out the case because of a lack of evidence, and election fraud becomes the new normal. This is how they're going to cheat Bernie Sanders in 2020. If propaganda can't change our votes, then fraction magic will. And if we try to audit those votes, then they'll just destroy the records. It's what they have always done, and they have never been punished for it. So we need to start standing up for election integrity right now, because our vote is our voice and we are being silenced. And if we don't start speaking up, then our country and our democracy are doomed. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to click like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please consider supporting the show on Patreon or donating.